Welcome to the National Family Legacy Podcast, where we explore uplifting narratives from organizations making a positive impact in our world. To connect with us or explore further, visit our website at nationalfamilylegacy.org. We're thrilled that you've joined us for today's episode.
Hello, and welcome to the National Family Legacy Podcast. We're so happy that you're tuning in today. Today is a very exciting day because our podcast now has a video element to it. You may notice that you can actually see us this time. So hello, this is what we look like. And we're just so happy that you're tuning in. We are continuing highlighting an awesome organization that we contribute to called Tree of Life Medical Missions. And Tree of Life provides medical care to communities in Mexico that don't have access to certain kinds of medical care. And recently they just did a trip to Palenque in Mexico. And we are interviewing two awesome members of Tree of Life that were on that trip, Sean and Jackie. We're so happy that you guys are here. If you guys could introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves, what you do, and yeah, we're so happy that you're here.
Okay, my name's Jackie. Just a little bit about myself. I'm wife of Sean, married for 27 years, a mother of two beautiful girls. We're also new parents to a 15-year-old nephew. We have three dogs, Jackson, Juno, Boo, Scout.
I got the shout out. Nice. I love that.
Professionally, I've done quite a few different things in life. Right now, currently, I work as a aesthetic provider at my clinic in Loma Linda. I also work in plastic surgery in Orange County and general surgery at Redlands. And I also teach for the Loma Linda PA program.
Wow. That is a full plate.
Yes,
that's
it
awesome.
is. Mm-hmm.
Sean.
So, as Jackie said, I'm a dad, husband. My professional background, I'm a clinical forensic psychologist by training.
Wow.
I work in the state of California with folks with serious mental illness. I am a former university professor, and that's kind of
amazing.
The high points.
Thank you guys for being here today. So recently, you guys went on a mission trip with Tree of Life. You guys went to Mexico. Tell us a little bit of how you heard about this trip, how you heard about Tree of Life, and ultimately what inspired you guys to go on this trip.
So, we went on the trip last year to Palenque. It was a transformative experience. We just had an amazing time. And it was one of those things where after we finished and returned, I think we were already planning and thinking about the next one.
Yes.
And so, of course, we were just really excited to hear that they were going back. We love Palenque. It's just an amazing part of that country. The people are beautiful and wonderful, and we just had an amazing time. So, yeah, I think as soon as we left Palenque last year, we were already hoping and looking forward to the next trip.
To going back.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Now, you guys went on this trip 2 years in a row then.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your roles on the trip. How did you guys contribute? What did you guys do? Because you're a psychologist. You are not a physical therapist, a physician's assistant, a PA, correct? Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your roles on the trip and what did you expect going into the trip?
So last year was my first year, and I do work in general surgery, so I was excited to contribute, first assisting in anything that was needed in the OR. And so what I found was, there was two specialties that went, both general surgery and OBGYN, and I loved the collaboration. I loved all of it, but there was a little bit less organization the first year, and so I was really inspired this next year to kind of take part, and both Norelli and Armando were very open and willing to have me help and contribute. So I took a little bit more of a organizational role in the OR, and so yes, of course, I was able to help first assist within the surgeries, but what I really loved was kind of taking what I do here and actually transplanting a little more organization there. It is, definitely more rural and all of that,
right.
Except for, there's no reason why we can't have that organization and also making sure that the surgeons have what they need and the surge tech students, and kind of supportive role in that way. So a little bit of everything there, kind of mainly in the operating room.
That's awesome. So you were helping out in surgeries, but it sounds like also administratively. And
Right.
was that like planning out surgeries and scheduling them and all that?
Yeah, so it started out, I brought a big dry erase kind of stick on, like peel away thing. So we made an OR board, and then Sean was my right-hand person, and he became kind of the OR coordinator. So we worked it so when, he coordinated to have patients come before, and then as soon as we got the next patient in, he was already pre-screening for the next. And,
Nice.
so we had a greater
had a
organization.
system going.
So we increased our capacity, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And Sean, tell us a little bit about your role on the trip.
Yeah. So, last year the joke was, so what can a psychologist do? And so, this year it was, finding a good role for me. And so, as Jackie was mentioning, I was like the operating room coordinator,
Nice.
working with Jackie, kind of organizing and scheduling things, and just making sure that sort of the flow and the process moved smoothly, so that each of the medical specialties could really just focus on
Yeah.
their tasks and the work in front of them, just allow that to kind of go smoothly.
Nice.
In addition to that, I also gave morning talks, kind
Yes.
of inspirational,
Get the day started
get the day
talks.
started, kind of focusing on sort of our purpose there.
Yeah,
And all
I
of
heard
that.
about these conversations. Actually,
Yeah.
they're very famous now. I heard you were talking about studies on rats and how that applies to life, I guess, right? Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah, no. So, I was thinking about, different content to share. And Jackie had shared with me as I was going over materials, she said, you should talk about rat studies. And
Nice.
I thought, I think they're interesting.
Yes.
I'm not sure what the wider audience, kind of the general audience, is going to think. But they really resonated with people. So we talked about everything from how rats have been studied and how they've helped us understand things like hope,
Wow.
community,
Wow.
connection, all sorts of things.
That
So
is so
it was
awesome.
really fun. It was a great experience. I was humbled and honored to be able to kind of share my thoughts and ideas every day. So
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've spoken to a couple people that went on the trip, and all of them, their highlight was the rat stories. They all left feeling inspired. And in fact, I don't know if they're going to be out when this podcast comes out yet, but we are making rat shirts for the people on the trip, and they're all going to have little designs as to, some of the stories that you told of them.
The exciting part of every morning is, you break up, you have breakfast, you have your talks, and then we go into the OR or wherever the clinic areas. But it seemed like every day people were drawing a little extra picture or a diagram of something that had to do with a rat.
That's so funny.
And on our OR board. So all week people just kind of added and contributed based on the stories.
That's
and
so good.
So the word up there was gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude was sort of
Wow.
that was sort of the focus.
That's so good. And I can't, that sounds like the camaraderie on the team was so good that the
Yes.
connections was powerful. So Sean, well done on the rat stories.
Thank you.
Very famous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Earlier you were talking about sort of expectation and kind of going into the
Yeah.
trip. Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, has that great quote where he says, like, when everything goes wrong, that's when the adventure begins.
Wow.
And the funny thing and sort of the interesting thing about this trip was nothing went wrong. And so it was like this amazing experience where the camaraderie and the sort of the group, just really gelled.
Yeah.
The travel was super smooth. There were no issues. And it was just an amazing trip
That's
overall. Whenever I go on these kinds of things, I sort of have that sort of that mindset of like things are going to go wrong, and that's
Right.
okay. That's part of the adventure. That's what makes it
Yeah.
sort of fun and exciting. But things just continued to go well throughout the trip. And it really just allowed us, I think, as a group and as a team to just get so much done and also just really grow and connect with each other. It was really a kind of a profound experience.
I would say adversity causes us to grow and learn. Also, smooth sailing also causes us to learn and grow. So it's good to hear that it was smooth sailing, especially in light of, I know the previous year we had travel issues, which if you want to touch on that a little bit
Sure.
too, the year before, what happened?
So the year before the adventure started, if we use kind of the Yvon Chouinard framework at LAX, like
Yes.
it literally started at Jump Street
Yes.
as we were just getting started. And there was a group of us who we weren't able to be processed fast enough by the ticket airline folks. And so about 8 people didn't make the flight. And, it just kind of, created a whole cascade of problems.
Oh,
So I was with that group. We were together.
Yes, I was there.
It was a bonding experience, like trauma brings people together.
Trauma, man.
So, so we really connected. It ended up, we all made it eventually.
Yes.
And it was an adventure.
It was definitely an adventure.
But lots of great stories came out of it.
Yes, and I'm glad to hear that this year was smooth sailing, that you guys made it no issues. Are there any notable stories from this year, experiences in your time in the OR or perhaps outside of the OR? Because you're dealing with people the entire trip, and even though that sometimes there's a language barrier, you're still interacting with people and you're hearing their stories. So are there any notable stories that you guys can share from this last trip?
Yeah, that's a great question. The very last day, we were only going to operate for half the day. And so we were really trying to be efficient and get, people moving through and everything. And it was looking like a couple of cases ended up being a little more complex than we had anticipated. And so there was one patient that was left. And I think he somehow figured out that I was the coordinator. And there was a possibility, and it was communicated to him that, there's a real possibility we won't be able to do this surgery because we're running out of time. And so I was walking back and forth and kind of making sure everything was moving. And I walked by him and he reached down, he grabbed my arm, and he actually spoke perfect English.
Oh, wow. And
he said, please, if there's anything you can do to make sure I get this surgery, I have sacrificed so much to get here. And, please, can you make sure, I get this done? He had a hernia, and I'll leave it to the medical folks to say what kind it was. And he also had this arm lesion and hand lesion. And so, he had sort of 2 procedures that he needed done. Amazingly, and this is really just a testament to so many things, including our just amazing medical team, we were able to get him in. Nice. And we actually were able to get both the hernia repaired, and Jackie actually removed the lesion at the same time they were doing the hernia, because we were
double surgery at the same time.
It was
actually 3 procedures.
That's
true.
Because we had
That's true.
a hysterectomy on one side. We had the hernia repair, the ventral hernia repair, and then we scrubbed his arm as well. And so there was a couple of us taking off the lesion on his hand.
Wow.
There was another team on his hernia. And
Wow.
on the next side, they were doing a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
So.
Triple threat.
Yeah, no, totally.
That's
and
amazing.
It was awesome. And so we got him in, and, as I was kind of finishing up and we were sort of, in a way, kind of packing up, I just did a quick sweep through the recovery room just to see how everyone was. And again, he reached out and he was just incredibly grateful. Wow. And it really, it deeply impacted me. You know, it really brought into focus, and it was a reminder of just the amount of sacrifice these individuals make just to even get to the hospital.
Yeah.
And even though the procedures are free to them, the sacrifice it takes for them to even get there is just it's not comparable to anything here. And so
Definitely.
it was a deeply moving moment for me.
Yeah, that is powerful. And I've been on trips like this as well with Tree of Life, and oftentimes it's not just the people that live in the cities that you're helping, but it's people that hear about this trip, this mission, and people from all over the surrounding areas come. And sometimes it's, they're walking there, taking public transport or taking a bike, and it truly is a mission for them to get to get there and get care. And what's tough with mission trips is that you can only do so much. You have a limited time, but it's always so powerful when you hear stories like that, when you're able to help somebody in need, which is super amazing. Jackie, are there any stories that you can share? Any notable experiences that you had on the trip?
So when I think about notable stories, I actually think about the entire trip and what I enjoy most about it. And every time, this is my second time going, but I just love that people actually come together from all walks and professions and experiences and diverse backgrounds, religions. They come from so many places, and then we come together, and that's where our story kind of melts into each other. So it starts with day one. People start rolling into LAX, and we start putting faces to names, and people introduce themselves like, I'm anesthesia, I'm in the clinic, I'm general help. And you start kind of breaking off into little groups and start listening to each other's stories. And I just love that part because, there's a little bit of excitement, there's a little bit of anticipation. They don't know how they're going to contribute, what it's going to be when they get there. And then, the first obstacle is getting through check. Getting everyone checked in. And once that happens, then we all get seated on the plane. And we actually get seated close together, but in alphabetical. So it's not like surgeons in one area, medical people in another area. It's like everybody sits and you have a surgeon next to a surg tech student, next to an ultrasound student, next to the person who is just here for interpretation. And it's just like, so we introduce ourselves again and we say, so, tell me more about you.
Yeah.
And every opportunity we have when we get on a bus to go to an excursion, or we, any opportunity to sit and have a meal at breakfast is another touch point, and everyone shares their story from where they came from. And then we all come together to share, how was your day? How was clinic? How was,
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I just love that part of it because, in a hospital setting, there's just hierarchies everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like the doctors are here, the people are here and everything. But here it's like everybody is here to both, anticipate the needs, to be well prepared, to be flexible, then to be creative and to adapt.
So good.
And then we're all unified in this common purpose.
Yeah.
And so this story that's created every time is a beautiful story in and of itself because, there's people that actually, have pain and cry because they feel like, oh, I'm insufficient. And then you have surgeons who have been there that are now retired, that are just so inspired by working with some of the students. And it's just everybody comes together for a common purpose. And it's such a beautiful thing every trip that we've been on. And this last one in particular, I just felt like we all came together so well. And so when we have a common purpose, it doesn't matter what you have come from. It's just a beautiful thing. And so I love that experience of it. So
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like almost like the first day of school when you pull up to the airport.
Right.
You're nervous. You don't know anybody. You're wondering who's going to be who.
Did I wear the right thing?
Exactly. Should I have wore these shoes?
I
Maybe
know,
not.
I know. All those questions come forth.
They all come forward. And by the end of the trip, I feel like everybody's always connected. Everybody knows each other, and you leave with this sense of I made a friend. I know somebody now, which is so awesome. And what's so awesome too is I've been on the trip and I know people who got married because they met on the trip too.
Yes.
And so if you have not been on this trip,
That's right. That has to be a draw because, there's so much exposure. And if you want to marry somebody who also likes to travel, who also likes to adventure, who also likes to, give and serve others, it's the perfect time to jump in. And
I love that.
You never know who you're going to meet.
Tree of Life is putting people together. I love that.
right.
Yeah. So you guys have been on the trip 2 years in a row now. Has there ever been anything that surprised you about the trip? maybe an experience or maybe just an encounter that you've had with somebody. Has there been anything that has surprised you guys about the trip?
I mean, one thing that was a surprise was how much of a hit the rat stories were. That still is a surprise. Although it shouldn't surprise me, and this is actually more of what I was going to say is, I think we get so bombarded with messages about like just how different, how different we are, how polarized we are, socially and everything.
Wow, yeah.
And one of the things that, and I think Jackie just articulated it so well, is that the journey of life, and I'm not talking about just the Tree of Mission team, but the people we interact with in the hospitals, on the streets, the hotel we stay at, wherever. We're all on a common human journey. And that journey includes how we face change, how we navigate through things like suffering,
Wow.
how we receive, the goodness of life, how we sort of move beyond ourselves and really enter into a life of serving others.
That's so good.
And you just see it unfold. And you just see like people at the hospital who we don't know, we don't even like, thank goodness for Google Translate, because there was so many times both myself and the medical staff from the hospital, who we did not speak the same language.
Right.
We were trying to translate things and get it right. Yet there's so much connectedness and connection. And again, like Jackie was talking about, like shared purpose. And,
Yes.
and it shouldn't be a surprise, but it is always still somewhat of a surprise just how much, how common I think the human journey is. And,
Yes.
and so that was just kind of a reminder, and I guess you could say a surprise in some ways, but
Yeah.
it was yet another powerful
Yeah,
experience.
I mean, I've experienced the camaraderie amongst the team, but then you get to, I've been on the trip a couple times to Palenque as well, and you just encounter people, and of course, like there are differences in some ways, but in a lot of ways, you're just amongst people. Like everybody has similar situations and similar family situations, and it is so. I'd say it's a nice surprise when you get there and you're just with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have to add something to
Please
that.
do. Please do.
So when I have been on a mission trip. I was a student missionary, so was Sean. We were in, in remote parts of Micronesia. And there, there were times where I had electricity, didn't have electricity. There was rats and things and,
Oh, boy.
termite poop
The
and
rats.
everything.
The uncool rats.
Right, that's right. But the expectation is you're on a mission trip, right? So you think like, okay, the accommodations are going to be substandard, but it's okay. We're on a mission trip. Food might be not as good, but we're on a mission trip.
Right.
However, you get off the bus and you pull in. The bus pulls into this beautiful touristy area, cobblestone streets, and you pull up to the hotel.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. We get our own rooms, or, we got our room together. Air conditioning.
Yes.
There, right next door, is the new gelato place. Every morning, we are welcomed with a full array of a buffet breakfast.
That's so awesome.
They can do laundry for you. There's a swimming pool.
Yes.
So it's like, if you want to even come and you say, okay, I'm going to spend like one day's pay just to pay for the trip as professionals, and then a little less for students. It includes your airfare, it includes your hotel, your accommodation, your food, and it is like such an amazing deal. And I think it's through sponsors and through donations that they're allowed to do this. But we work hard all day, and to be able to be so well fed,
Yeah.
and the accommodations to be so nice, that is one thing that Tree of Life goes above and beyond for. They're
Yes.
volunteers, and it's amazing. It exceeded my expectation.
That is so amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. And being on the trip too, I can attest to what you're saying. It is so nice to be at those hotels. And the staff there at that hotel, they know us now because we've gone multiple years. And I think that they get very excited when they hear we're coming through, and they treat us so well every time.
Absolutely.
And what's funny is to contrast what you said about that trip that, you think I'm going on a mission trip, and so I don't expect good accommodations. Well, I went on the very first Tree of Life medical mission trip ever, and it was in 2012, and I was probably 12 years old or something like that, 13, 14, and it was not great accommodations. We were in a hut. Me and my sister were crying because we were being eaten by mosquitoes. Oh, wow. It was crazy. So being in a hotel is definitely a big up, and it's a blessing to have that opportunity out there. Now, these trips are so awesome. How do you feel leaving the trip, right? Because you're giving to other people all week. You're hanging out with incredible people, making relationships. At the end of the trip, how do you guys feel?
Go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, my heart was just filled with so much gratitude. Just being so grateful for all the experiences that we had, throughout the trip. These kinds of trips really do put life into perspective, and really just help you, I think, do like self-inventory of like what's important in life and what's not. And that's been my personal experience, but it's the experience I've heard from others as well. It's like, it's just a reminder of what is ultimately important and meaningful in life. Right. So it's really just like a profound opportunity to kind of just do that sort of self-inventory, really see the good in what is, and just to be incredibly grateful.
That's so awesome. I love that. What about you, Jackie?
So for me, I guess, when I think about the experience coming back, the way I feel is kind of like, I'll just say it like in a martial arts kind of scenario, if I can. So like, like in I don't know if it's Muay Thai or what they do, and then they're fighting and they're going and they're getting beat up and they're exhausted, and then they take a break, and then the coach is kind of talking with them, okay, this is what you need to do. They're getting greased up and whatever. That's how I feel. Wow. I feel like we've just gone through something together. We've triumphed, and the journey was so good, and you're just, full of energy, like really exhausted. I mean, in this last trip, what did we do? 85 surgeries.
Yeah, over 80 surgeries.
In 4.5 days. So you're exhausted, you're wiped out, you're sore, but you feel so energized, and you just want to get together and say, okay, where can I improve? What can we do better, and get back into the ring?
That's so good.
So that's how I feel. I feel like this is what we did so well this time. This is how we need to pivot for next year, so that we can make it better, and then inspire others to jump in too, because everybody has something to contribute. Yes. It doesn't matter if you're, not, like we had an engineer who made the best pharmacist on this trip, and so it was amazing. And so that's how I felt. I was exhausted, but super energized to get back in the ring.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that analogy too. That you're beaten up a little bit, you're bruised, you're tired, but for some reason something inside of you is like alive.
Right.
And I could attest to that too. Being on the trip, I think there's that cliche saying that you go on a mission trip expecting to bless others, and you leave being the one that feels blessed. Yeah. And truly, I feel like that is 99% of the time how everybody walks away from that trip. Now, you guys have been on the trip multiple times, and you guys have enjoyed it, so I think I know the answer to this question, but do you recommend somebody come on this trip? And if so, why do you recommend they come?
I feel like Jackie's on a roll. I think you should take this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I guess, surprisingly, when we were there, you had a group, game or whatever, and we had the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, the 20s.
By age.
Age.
Yeah. We broke people down into age
we
groups.
actually had the group that had the most was the 60.
Nice.
And over. So it was interesting. So I just think that at every age or any age is an opportunity for us to learn more about who we are and what our purpose is in life.
That's
and
so good.
Sometimes when we are doing the same thing all the time, you kind of get in, you might be in a little bit of a rut professionally, socially. But when you come on a trip like this, where you don't have the full, all of your equipment or all the assists that you know are used to. You have to really be adaptable. You have to adjust, and then you start learning more about who you are, maybe, and then also like really being able to work well within a team. And so I think it's an amazing opportunity to both be stretched professionally, but on top of that, I mean, we are going to Mexico, so you think, oh, I know a little bit of Spanish, but you know, we serve, I think it was 7 indigenous cultures
Wow.
or communities.
Yeah.
And so we had to translate from English to Spanish to Chol or to Mayan or whatever
Right.
it was. And so for me, I really don't speak Spanish. So my main form of communication was smiles and hugs.
Right.
Because,
Thumbs
you know,
up.
or hand gestures. So I have continued to want to live a life of purpose. And part of that is going on these trips, and it's something that I am learning more about each other, cultures, traveling, and then also who I am and who I want to be.
I love that. That's so good. What about you, Sean?
I absolutely recommend it. And, you know, I had to take some time off work, and, you know, people were asking like, oh, where are you going? You know, and I, you know, told them I was going to Mexico, and, you know, they asked more questions. And so, you know, I told them about the Tree of Life organization and the kind of work that they do and the kind of work that we were doing. And people were amazed. I mean, people, you know, from all sorts of backgrounds and experiences were like, wow, that's amazing. And, you know, how long have you been doing this? And I just think people really connect with these opportunities to, again, like travel, have adventure, but also to serve. And I do think there's something deep within like the human soul that just really craves and values that. It's something that is like soul nourishing to kind of get outside of your own space and to engage with the quote unquote other, you know, whoever that is. And I just think it's, you walk away a different person, and I think you walk away a transformed person.
That's so good.
And I think you also participate in the transformation of other people's lives, because each one of these medical procedures or dental procedures or surgeries or even just conversations in the hallway, they hold the potential to transform people's lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, I shared that story earlier of the guy who grabbed my arm. I mean, I don't know, you know, where he's at or sort of what became of him, but, you know, I left that experience, you know, thinking like this was a transformative experience for him.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to live with less pain, more mobility. You know, there's just so many things that like are good that come out of this.
I love that.
Do I recommend it? Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's so good that we could just wrap it up almost by saying, because it's a good thing. Go on the trip because it is good. Like, you're helping people, and you're also connecting with people that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have met. You know, you're meeting people we have people that came from Seattle to New York. I know we have a doctor that comes every year from New York too. And you're just connecting, and all across the board. It's just a good trip to come on.
Can I also say one thing?
Please do.
You know, you talked about people meeting and falling in love on these mission trips. But on the other side of that, I just absolutely love that I get to do this with Sean. Because, you know, he works, you know, he used to work at Patton. I can never step foot in there because it's, you know, maximum
security psychiatric hospital.
Yes. So, I mean, I
Sounds
would
like a
probably
challenge.
never foot in there anyway. And he has no opportunity to come see me when I'm operating. But on these trips, I mean, he was able to come and scrub in with me.
Wow.
We had other people whose husband wives came together, and they can actually see what the other does. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to actually get to know your spouse even more and actually have a greater respect, and then, you know, come together. And so I love the fact that you can come, and meet people. But I just love it when, we can do that as a couple and grow even deeper in our relationship. So.
Yeah, well said. I totally agree.
That's so good. I love love. Let's go. And to echo that, my wife and I went on the trip last year, and I mean, we were engaged at the time, but again, just so blessed. And it's
Right.
just cool to see the person that you love in a mode of service, like helping somebody else. It's inspiring, and it really grows you closer together. So thank you guys so much for being on this podcast. It's been amazing hearing about your experience, and I truly believe that people are going to be inspired hearing how you've explained this trip. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. To all of you guys who tuned in for this episode, we thank you. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, and also go to our website. We post our podcast there, also on Spotify, YouTube, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.